Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel Biodiversity and Conservation. I am Subhalakshmi Rao from Ambika Prasad Research Foundation, India, and today we are going to discuss about research problem. What is research problem? Why we need to define a research problem and how it helps in research. So in research, the first and foremost step happens to be selecting and properly defining a research problem. For example, if we go to a doctor and we don't know the symptoms of our disease and we can't explain the doctor about the symptoms, then the doctor cannot give us the medicine for our disease. Like that only, in research, we have to define a problem in research so that we can try to get the solution. After knowing the problem only, we can discuss about the techniques or methods of research that we can use to solve the issue. So a research problem is generally some difficulty that is faced by the researcher while studying through literature survey about the problem or practically facing the situation, and he wants to do something to solve this issue. So that is actually a research problem, and there are some components that are to be taken into consideration while defining a research problem, like there must be an individual or group or organization that has some problem that need to be solved, and there must be some outcomes to attain, like if we want nothing then we cannot have a problem. So there must be some objectives that need to be fulfilled, and there must be some alternative outcomes for obtaining the objective, like we can use one method or another. So there must be a choice for us to select a particular research method to uh, get our solution to the research problem. Then there must be some doubt in the mind of the researcher so that he can go through all the alternatives that are presented in front of him and choose the correct one so that we can get to the good solution. And there must be some environments to which the difficulty pertains. Actually, there are always variables in research, so we have to take into consideration all these variables while working on a research problem. So now next is selecting the research problem, and the research problem that we have taken into our study should be carefully selected, and that is one difficult task because we don't have all the idea that is to be put while selecting any research problem, and we should take help from our research guide or any professor from university, those who have idea about the particular subject or the problem, so that they can guide us in the correct direction and we can do a good research. So there are some points that are to be taken into consideration while selecting a research problem, like one should not choose a problem or a subject that is worked on by so many researchers, because if we take a subject that is um, experimented and worked on by all the researchers, then it would be difficult to bring something new in that case. And controversial subject should not be a choice of a average researcher, because the problems that would come with the controversial subject the average researcher does not have that much qualification to solve those problems, and too narrow or too vague problems should be avoided, and the subject selected for research should be familiar and feasible, so that the related research materials that are required should be within our reach. And even when we have the subject that is familiar, there is very difficult issue to get all the required research materials, because uh, we don't have the correct direction which we want to go for choosing the correct materials. So for this purpose, a researcher should contact an expert, so that he may guide and help with the techniques and ideas that are to be required in that subject, so that he can choose the research materials in that way. And the importance of the subject, the qualifications and the training of researcher, and the cost involved and the time factor are some of the criteria that are to be taken into consideration while selecting a problem. Like if we want to um, do our research within 1 year, so we have to choose a problem like that only, so that we can complete the research within 1 year. And if we would like to do research within 1 year and choose a topic that is difficult and would normally take 3 to 4 years to solve, so those things should be taken into consideration while selecting a problem. And next is the selection of the problem must be preceded by a preliminary study. That means we should do some pilot survey or some literature survey before choosing a problem, so that we can know that what we can expect or what we can do with this problem, and then carry forward with our problem. Now, what is the necessity of defining the problem? We actually hear a saying that a problem clearly stated is a problem half solved. So this means that when we know our problem, then only we can solve the problem. So we can find the data according to that, and we can uh, design our research like that, so that we can solve the problem. And the proper definition of research problem actually will help the researcher to be on track, rather than having a not non-defined or properly stated problem, which will create so many hurdles while performing the research. And some questions like what data to be collected and what characteristics of the data are actually needed, and what relations are to be explored. So those all things are to be kept in mind while um, formulating a research problem. So the formulation of a problem is a very important step in the research process than finding a solution, because after only careful detailing of the research problem, we can work out a research design and carry out all the uh, techniques and the steps and methods that are required to do the research to get the solution. So defining the research problem is a very important part of research, and that should be done with very cool mind and thought thoroughly. And there are some techniques that are helpful in defining a research problem. Like first, we have to state the problem in a general way, in the broad way, For doing this, the researcher should be thorough with the subject matter that is concerning with his uh, problem, and if he want, he can do a preliminary study so that he can properly understand and get through the problem. And the researcher can himself state the problem or can seek guidance of the guide for doing this task. And next is understanding the nature of the problem. The best way of understanding the problem is actually to discuss this with the um, people or with those who have faced the problem or who first have raised the issue. And for a better understanding of the nature of the problem involved, he can enter into discussion with uh, those who have good knowledge concerning this particular issue. And next is surveying the available literature. All the available literature concerning the problem should be surveyed and examined properly by the researcher, and this would also help the researcher to know if there are some gaps in the theories, and whether the previous theories are applicable to solve the current problem. And by going through this, he can find a technique that can solve the issue, and it would be a novel one also. Next is developing the ideas through discussions. Discussion concerning the problem often produces useful information, and various ideas which are new comes from these discussions only. So the researcher can discuss this problem with the experienced guides or with the people who are going through with this problem, and it would be helpful to the researcher to develop the ideas through discussions. Next is rephrasing the research problem into a working proposition. Through rephrasing, the researcher actually puts forward the research problem in specific terms to become operational and may be helpful in development of a working hypothesis. Now, there are some points that we must be kept in mind while defining a research problem, like some technical terms or words with special meanings used in the statement of the problem should be clearly defined, and the basic assumptions related to the research problem should be stated clearly, and the criteria for the selection of the problem should be provided in um, in the thesis, and the suitability of the time period and the sources of data available must be considered by the researcher in defining the problem, and the scope of investigation is to be studied must be mentioned uh, in defining a research problem. This is all from me today. Thank you.